Hey everyone, welcome. So this is another session of Creative Art Time, our weekly live series where we create and talk about art together. So if you're maybe new here, I'm Emmy Kalia, a self-taught artist from the Netherlands, and I mostly create realistic portrait drawings with graphite and charcoal, but also I use pastel and watercolor sometimes. So today I want to continue this drawing. I will just be drawing and sharing my thoughts and hopefully inspire you, because whenever I see others draw or paint something, it always inspires me in some way. So I hope I can give you that same inspiration, or maybe a reminder to start drawing again, or even maybe continue that drawing you never finished. So if you have any questions, maybe about the drawing or materials or any other things art related, you can ask them in the chat anytime. So let's get started. I also have the reference photo that I'm following here for you to see so that you can see my whole drawing process. And normally I use graphite and a black colored pencil for the darker values, but I'm starting to use charcoal more, and that's where I also discovered to use PanPastel for the skin. And I'm actually going to erase this part because I don't like how I just dabbed some spots there for the freckles, but I want to show you how I'm going to draw that. So I'm just going to lighten this area so that I can draw that again. Hopefully I can just layer over this. And let's see, I have the PanPastels here. This is the neutral gray. And the lighter one, this is the neutral gray tint. And the neutral gray shade. So this is one darker. Don't think I'm going to use the white, but I also have the neutral gray extra dark. So I have 4 shades of gray. And I have this soft brush, and this is what I use to add and also to blend. This is really nice. And the paper that I'm using is Fabriano. So I'm still testing out this paper and seeing if I like this to continue on this paper. I also want to try out the Strathmore vellum paper. Let's see, I'm going to start with the lighter value, gray shade, and then just use the brush to gently brush on the PanPastel. So instead of all of normally I use graphite pencil, I add a light layer, and then I use a soft tissue to soften and blend everything. But in this case, brushes will help you with the blending. So I'm using one darker shade because it's a bit darker here. And the brush is really helpful for blending all of the values together. Let's see, this side is not that dark. Maybe here a bit more value next to the nose. And then there's some highlight over there, and also some freckles. So let's see. I'm going to try out different things. I'm going to use the charcoal pencil. This is the HB. Maybe use the 2B pencil. It's a bit softer. What's the brush you are using? This is just a powder brush. I think this is just a makeup brush, and I got this set from Amazon. So you can Google on Amazon powder brushes, and then you will get these flat, short brushes. These are great to add for these. To use for PanPastel, and also maybe if you're going to use charcoal powder, those brushes are really soft to use. So I'm going to use the charcoal pencil, but also the small brush with the powder, with the PanPastel, to create those freckles. So let's see how that will turn out. And if you look at the freckles, the spots are, some are darker, some are lighter, and they're not just these circles, they have different shapes. So try to, yeah, focus on that. I see some lighter freckles, so I'm going to leave those. With the blending stump, you can blend the charcoal. Always blend with every layer you create, whatever material you're going to use, always blend. So with charcoal, I use a blending stump. And then with PanPastel, I use the brushes. PanPastel. Sounded funny when I said that. Yeah, so always blend. You want smooth transitions in your drawing. So that will help to make it look more natural and realistic. So now I'm going to use a small brush. And I also have this small sponge applicator. Could also be good to use, but what I noticed is that with sponges, I also have this one. I use this for larger areas like backgrounds. With sponges, you will get a nice smooth layer, but I noticed that with the brush, it applies the PanPastel a bit softer, so that's what I prefer to use. It's just a preference, just sharing what I noticed. So I have a small brush here. This is just an acrylic brush, and I just dab it into the PanPastel and just create these softer. This is something that I'm just trying out now, seeing how that goes. And then you can also blend that charcoal as well. For the brushes, these are powder brushes, but the other ones are filbert or flat brushes, synthetic brushes. So if you already have brushes for that you use for watercolors, you can use that. I'm going to just look for all of the darker values that I see, all of the lighter values, all of the midtones, and just gently apply what I see. I used charcoal for the nostrils, and I used an eraser here for that bright highlight here. And then you can use a brush. I also have a tissue here, just to be sure that when you're going to blend like the highlight, you want to make sure that you have a clean brush. So you can just clean it off and then soften the edges. So again, when I create highlights, I'll also always blend, but in this case, soften the edges, because that makes it look more natural as well. A bit bigger. This highlight can be a bit bigger. I also have this bigger brush. This is really big, and then you can use this for those eraser crumbs. But when you're working with powder, you want to be careful. Yeah, let's add some freckles on this side. And maybe when I use the larger brush to blend, I'm not sure if I will blend this all together. Just something I'm trying out. There are some smaller. I'm going to use the HB charcoal pencil and go over or create those freckles. I'm using light pressure. You don't, with charcoal, you can just use really light pressure. Here are some lighter freckles, so I'm not going to use the charcoal. Here are some dots. And this reference photo is really, it's like just, it's like a close-up with a lot of details. You can see all of those skin details. So you could go further with the details and create all of those like skin pores, and you can even see some tiny hairs, but I usually don't create all of those like hyper realistic drawings where you create every single detail or add every single detail. That's not what I do. I just make sure that I have the values correct. These kind of details like the freckles and some wrinkles in the face, I do think those are important to create the same likeness. But all of those smaller details, that's up to you how far you go with the details. But I think that the values are more important than the details. So you can go, sometimes I see beginners, they completely lose their self. Now they add so much detail, they focus on all of those tiny details, maybe on the clothing, on the skin, but then the values aren't correct. Like they don't have those shadows yet or the highlights. So the drawing looks flat, but then they put in all those details. So the values are more important than detail. Darken this freckle here. And it's also, drawing is also about patience. You need to be patient. You need to build up the layers slowly, step by step, and really carefully. I'm going to use a larger brush and blend over everything. I want to make those freckles look a bit softer. Yeah. Maybe use this bit PanPastel. Here. Blend this one a bit. I think I can make that one a bit bigger. But before I continue with those details, I want to move on to the lips. So that's what I often do. And I move on to another area on the drawing, and then I can go back. Because the more you complete of the drawing, actually here's a shadow, a darker shadow. I want to use create that shadow first. So once you finish more of the drawing, you can focus on the whole drawing. You can squint your eyes to check the values. And here, let's use a bigger brush and add some shading here under the nose. So all of these values that I'm creating, these will help to make the nose look round and the face. And you see how flat the lips look, also because they have an outline and they're just one value, one light value. But now we're going to create darker value and really make those lips look round. And then I can go back to these details. I used charcoal, the HB, for the outline, but now I'm actually the top part, I shouldn't have created an outline there. I'm going to see if I can lighten. I already went over this with the PanPastel, so I'm noticing that it's more difficult to erase this now. So that's interesting, something I need to keep in mind for the next drawings, that I first need to create the layers with PanPastel, and then, yeah, and then the charcoal. Okay, so I'm going to use the brush and the neutral gray and just put down a whole layer on the lips. You see those lighter highlights? I'm going to use the eraser for that and then build, go darker from here. So it's okay if you add, fill in the whole lips. And then here will be darker for the shadow. Actually, let me, I outlined this, but I shouldn't have. So before I continue to shade here and then I can't erase anymore, I'm trying to do that now. Because you see that shadow, it kind of has like a gradient from dark to like the mid-tone, from the darkest shadow to the lighter shadow, and then to the mid-tone here on the skin. So you don't want an outline there, you want like a smooth gradient. So next time, I'm not going to outline everything. And I created the sketch with a lighter graphite pencil. So PanPastels are very expensive in India. Can you suggest alternatives in charcoal? Yes, you can get charcoal powder. And then with charcoal powder, you can also create different values. But I've also seen some use a charcoal stick. And then with sandpaper, they create their own powder. That's what I would suggest, because I see other artists use that as well. But for the PanPastel, I started with just 2, like with white and black. And then I have 4 grades, 4 grays, shades of gray. So these are 6 PanPastel colors in total. But yeah, I can imagine if it's more expensive there, yeah, then I would suggest using charcoal. Okay, slowly going to darken here in the middle with the darker gray. And let's go from here. So the reason why I'm using PanPastel instead of charcoal powder is because I have these different values. They're already ready to use. So, hello Erica, sorry I'm late. Yeah, no problem. I started with adding these freckles. I already drew the nose, but now I'm continuing with the lips. And I have PanPastel, all of these different shades. And I'm just layering with a brush to create this soft effect. We get chunky charcoal only in black. Yeah, that's the thing. So I have seen artists create a powder of that charcoal so that you can create different values. But again, yeah, with the brush you can create a lighter value with that charcoal powder. With the sponge you can create a bit darker shading. And then with the charcoal pencil, you can create even darker value. So I think that's what some other artists are using when they're only using charcoal. But yeah, it's something you will need to look up. This is what works for me. And like I said, only 4 different PanPastels and then a black. You can create every value with this. Okay, so you see how I'm slowly just adding darker value to the middle, and then also here below the lips. I think I'm going to use the black for the darkest, but I'm just going to slowly get darker and darker. And then you see, if you look just below the lips, not sure if you can see it on the reference photo on screen. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome. Nice to see you also joining. So there's a small highlight just below the lip. So that's where I'm going to use the eraser, pencil eraser. Maybe I can make the reference photo just a bit bigger. Like that. Okay, so yeah, blending, adding the PanPastel, the powder. The top lip is a bit darker. So I'm adding some more. Maybe a bit more of this darker. And here as well. And I'm going to use the smaller brush so I can be more precise. So let's use the darker value. I'm thinking I can also use the charcoal pencil for this darkest middle part, but I'm going to continue with the PanPastel first. I still need to experiment a bit more if I can blend the two nicely together. I used charcoal here for the nostril, but I still need to go over it a bit. So I'm not sure if I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to use charcoal, but also PanPastel, see how the two will blend. So because I'm using a brush, it's almost like painting instead of drawing with pencil. And to be more precise, I can use the charcoal pencil, the HB. But again, I'm not sure how that will blend, so let's just try that out. Yeah, by watching me draw, I hope I can inspire you. Maybe to try out different things, or maybe to continue with your own drawing that you're working on. Because like I said, I always get inspired when I see someone else draw, and then I think, oh, I should be drawing again. I feel like drawing again. And then sometimes, yeah, like I don't always feel like drawing, but I always get motivated when I see others draw. So I hope I could give you that inspiration to pick up your pencil again or your brushes and draw for yourself again. Maybe you have a drawing laying on your desk that you wanted to finish again. Elizabeth asked, does anyone recommend a good fixative to use on finished pastel work? Yeah, I have one that I just bought on Amazon. I'm not sure if the brand is available where you are from, because the one I got is from Germany. Let me get it real quick so I can show you. I have this one so it's just fixative, and the one I have is great to use for charcoal, pastel, colored pencil, graphite, So I would look up, yeah, which maybe you could go to your local art store, but if you're going to check online, you can look up for some fixative that is transparent and also matte. You don't want like a shine on your drawing after. So one that is matte, and then that one that is good for charcoal or pastel. Let's use the HB so that I can be more precise. So let's draw those darks. I'm actually going to use the 2B because I feel that that charcoal pencil is a bit softer. I'm going to use the 4B. I think I want it even softer, the 4B. Elizabeth says, I will look for one today. Mine are so smudgy when I finish them. Yeah, I know. I also, yeah, charcoal and pastel can get really messy. So I would advise you to put them in a folder, but then like a clear sheet in between every one of them. Or maybe you can even use a tissue like this, paper towel. After using fixative, like a clear sheet, and then put it in a folder. Or if you can put it behind glass if you're going to frame it. It's also possible. So that there's really dark shading here. There's also strong contrast in this drawing because of the light. You see that strong highlight and strong shadow. They know that the contrast is really high, and that's what you want to create. Hi Janice, welcome. Nice to see you here. So I'm just sharing my drawing process, and this time instead of graphite, I'm using PanPastel and charcoal, and just experimenting and seeing how this all layers and what I can create with this. Because whenever I try a new medium, I always do this to see how it blends, see how it layers. Your sketchbook is full of wax paper inserts to keep them smearing. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I know it can get messy, but so that's the when I started, I think a lot of beginners, when they start drawing, they use graphite. But once you start to draw more and more, then you know that graphite alone is not enough to get those darks. But when I saw others use charcoal, I thought, oh, that's really not for me. I'm not going to use that. It's so messy. How do they even do that? I also see some use gloves, or they just use their fingers to smudge, and everything gets dirty. Yeah, you must just need to love the medium enough to accept that things will get dirty. I'm starting to love the outcome, the results I get with the drawing. So that it's a bit more messy than just graphite. I'm starting to work with that. But again, I know what you mean, because when I finish this drawing and then I think, okay, where am I going to put it? I don't want to mess it up. I want it to stay like this, because it smudges really easily. So you want to be careful with that and mindful, with charcoal and pastel. You really need to like what you can create with it. So I can understand that some would never use charcoal or pastel because of that reason. So with the blending stump, I'm going to blend this all. Remember, I always blend after each layer. And then I'm going to put in the highlights, and then we can go from there. So always remember that when you're drawing something, there are like these messy and ugly stages that you need to go through. So if you look at your drawing at this stage, you might think, oh, this is not going well. But there's, with every single drawing, any type of medium, there's kind of like an ugly stage. You need to just continue and know that everyone goes through those stages. So if you compare your middle stages to someone's drawing that is already finished, yeah, you can't do that because you need to continue with the layering. And you also need to trust the process. I still can feel a bit nervous, like, ooh, will this turn out like I hoped? And also now, even because I'm not really used to, or I'm not really used to this medium. So I also feel a bit nervous, like, will this turn out how I hope? Because I'm used to graphite. And then after years of practice with graphite, I know what I'm doing. So then that makes you more confident with your drawings. But yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone is how you will grow. So even though you feel nervous to draw something or to try out something new, I would say just go for it. You will never know if you don't try it out, right? So just try it out, go for it, make mistakes, learn. Everyone has their challenges, but if you don't practice, if you don't keep on going, you won't go past those challenges. You won't learn from it. Okay, I used charcoal for this shadow. I feel like the PanPastel feels a bit softer. But yeah, I'm just going to go from here. Let's use the stick eraser and create some of those highlights. And once you create those highlights, you will immediately see that it's starting to look better. So let's create these highlights now. And then we can continue to define some more. So you can see that the midtone is already having the correct value. I will need to, this looks quite messy, so I will need to blend some more here. But remember, patience, step by step, just continue. I always say, don't rush, don't give yourself deadlines, just enjoy the process. You know, drawing can be fun or can help to relax you, maybe relax your mind. So try not to worry and just go focus on each step at a time. That's what helps me. And not think about, when I was a beginner, I always thought about the end result. And I compared my drawings to other artists. And that's not something that you should do, because if you're a beginner, that's not fair to yourself, firstly. And also, you need to focus on the what does drawing make you feel? How do you feel when you draw? That's what you need to focus on, and on each step. If you start to get like a bit frustrated because it's not working, I would say take a break and then continue later, or start over, or accept that you need to practice some more. So I'm seeing this outline. I shouldn't have I always say don't create outlines. Somehow I just wanted to outline the sketch before I started the shading. I shouldn't have do that with the charcoal pencil, because I noticed now that once I shaded over it with the PanPastel, I couldn't, yeah, I'm having a hard time to erase it now. It's also the same with watercolors. Sometimes I forget to erase the pencil, the pencil sketch, and then it shows up. And then once I put down a layer, yeah, I can't erase anymore. But I'm just going to work with what I have. I can also use the acrylic marker maybe to create those highlights here. Using pastel pencils opened up a whole new world for me. The colors are much richer than regular colored pencils. Yes, I'm agreeing with you there. I also want to use color very soon and experiment more with pastel pencils. The only thing I'm still, not really struggling with, but learning is with pastel pencils, how you can blend or how you can create really soft layers. Like what I'm creating now with the PanPastel and with a brush. If I'm just using pastel pencils, and I'm talking about the colored pastel pencils, for those lighter areas, that's where I'm struggling with a bit, or I'm not sure how I know that I can blend with the white or lighter pencil, but I would, or yeah, maybe I could also use a brush to blend, but I'm not sure which paper you are using, Beth, sorry. With the pastel matte, I noticed that once you put down the pastel pencil, you can't really blend with the brush, and that's what I actually would like to do to create those soft effects. So I would love to hear how that goes for you, the blending. Not sure if, yeah, let me know how long you are drawing with pastel pencils already. Would love to hear. Hi Laura, what kind of paper do you recommend for charcoal? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm also figuring that out myself. Before I was just using Bristol smooth paper, and that's because that's what I have been using with graphite all the time. But now I'm using watercolor paper, hot pressed. This is the one. This is the Fabriano. So hot pressed is a smooth watercolor paper, but I also want to try out the Bristol vellum. So yeah, I'm not really that advanced with charcoal, so I can't really recommend a good paper yet, but I would say maybe just get one sheet or go to your local art store, and instead of buying a whole pad of paper, you can maybe try out one sheet and then see how that works with the charcoal. I thought I always wanted to use the smoothest paper, like the Bristol smooth, but I'm thinking that is now too smooth. So either watercolor hot pressed or vellum paper. That's what I would recommend now. What brush can we buy for blending? This is a powder brush, a makeup powder brush. I'm using graphite pencils and charcoal together for my drawing. Can we use 200 GSM paper for drawing with graphite pen? Yeah, you can use 200 GSM. I used 270 GSM. Yeah, 200 would work. You will just need to see if you can continue the layering, how that will go. Once you start adding the charcoal on the graphite drawing. So again, I would say try it out. Keep on layering, see how if the blending works for you and how that goes. I'm going to use the black PanPastel. Or no, not yet. I'm going to use this darker shade, this one, and blend here. So I'm blending this now over the charcoal. And I'm going to see how that will turn out. And I'm going to start to define the lips a bit more, adding a bit more texture here and there, cleaning everything up, or yeah, defining the details a bit more. focusing on the values. You can also squint your eyes. See how that turns out. Elizabeth says, makeup brushes are so helpful and they are more economical. Yeah. So if you're like a guy and you don't have any makeup brushes, you could go to any store. How do you call those stores? Where you can buy like shampoo and everything. You also have some makeup brushes over there. And then look for powder brushes. Powder brushes are the one you want. You can also maybe ask someone from the store. Or just Google soft powder brushes. I prefer them over the sponges. Okay, so this highlight is way too harsh. Not really satisfied how that looks because of that outline, but I'm going to see if I can soften that a bit more. Because you kind of see like that detail. This is too dark. Let's, do you see that shadow up here? See that I missed that? This skin here looks really flat, this value. Shannon asks, can we ask questions after this lesson? Yeah, you can also ask your question now. I'm checking the chat. Yeah, if you have a question, you can also wait for after, but make sure that you ask it before that I end the live, or you could always leave a comment under the video on the replay. I check all of the comments, so oh, that's too dark. So I'm going to create this shadow here, make that part above the lip look a bit round. Okay, I can't really blend that area, so I will need to use the kneaded eraser to soften that. So if you go a bit too dark, I use cartridge paper in India. Yeah, it's always good to practice and try out different paper, see how that goes. So I could pick that up. Shannon asks, do you prefer to work with pastels instead of charcoal? That's also a great question and something I'm trying to experiment with. I do prefer the pastels over the charcoal powder. I've noticed that the charcoal powder is a bit more messy. And because these are already in pans, like really, ready to use actually. And I have different values, another plus for me. But because I'm using brushes, I can't create finer details. So I would say the charcoal pencils are great for that. So if I would need to choose between charcoal powder and the PanPastel, yes, I would use the PanPastel instead of the charcoal powder. And then I do like to use the charcoal pencils for the final details, because if I would use graphite, yeah, again, I would only be able to create a certain value, and charcoal, I can create the darks with it. So it seems cleaner. Yeah, that's also what I'm noticing, that the charcoal powder is messier. That was one thing that was always holding me back from using charcoal. This shadow is a bit too dark or too thick, too big. See that? Just need a smaller. So again, I'm going to use the kneaded eraser. That works. So this is this is a thing what you need to experiment and practice with. Let's clean this off. before I get it too dark again. This is the thing, the blending and the layering, and like if I make a mistake because I went too dark there, how can I correct that? So that's what you want to test out, see if that is possible, and then see how that goes on this paper. So that's what that's what I do when I test out paper. And I'm also curious to see how the vellum paper will react. Okay, let's focus on the lips a bit more. I used charcoal pencil here, and I noticed that it doesn't give me that smooth blending. So what I'm going to do is use a smaller brush and the black. I have the black here. Let me just put it here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to see how that will go with, if I can create a smoother layer. And I get some extra dust, and then I just gently blow it away. So it's not that I don't get any of that dust. I do get that, but it is a bit less than with the charcoal powder. At least it seems that way for me. Shannon says, I see that your pastel set has different values in the containers. What should I look for when buying a set such as yours? Yeah, I don't think there's a set with exactly these shades of gray. I already had the black PanPastel and the white because I had that from another set. But I would say if you just want to get these gray shades, I wouldn't buy a set. I would get these individually. And this is called the neutral gray. So I have the neutral gray tint, the neutral gray shade, and then the neutral gray extra dark. So from the neutral gray you have 4 shades, and then the black and white. So those are the six colors I would recommend. But you could also start with just the black and one of the grays to try it out first. Yeah, I'm not saying that you should get all of these new materials if you're not going to use it. So that's also something with us artists. We can buy all of these materials and then end up not using it. So I don't want to say buy this and buy that. It's also, yeah, I always say try it out, but yeah, you need to buy it before you can try it out. So that's why I wanted to show you my technique and how it works. Yeah, so you can see if you think it's worth it. And then start with 1 or 2 colors or shades of gray, practice, and then go from there. It's the same with colored pencils. I advise to, yeah, instead of a whole set, because you're never going to use all of the colors inside of that set. So that's always tricky. And also which pencils are the best, or which art materials are the best. You can look up different tutorials or different artists, and everyone recommends different things. So that's always a bit tricky. So I added a darker shadow here. See that? Yeah, so I like how soft and smooth the PanPastel blends here. But it's still a bit tricky. I can see the charcoal showing through. And I'm curious to try out some more paper with this same technique. You're welcome, Patricia. And Bay asks, I find charcoal always easily transfers to other adjacent pages. Do you mean that the charcoal transfers easily on the paper and that it blends easily? Is that what you're saying? I'm going to use the black again for the darker shadow. And if you draw something with a bigger, on a bigger scale like this, then you can really focus on smaller details. And that's also something that I'm enjoying lately. No, it's messy. Oh, yeah, it transfers to other pages, like in your sketchbook, or yeah, the table can get messy. Yes, that's what I also noticed with charcoal, especially charcoal powder. When I tried it out, my whole table around it got really messy. And you see here the powder, it sticks more. But again, you might hear me blowing it away. You see here some of that dust, so you do get that with the PanPastel. It's not that clean, but again, it feels less messy than the charcoal powder. Okay, I'm going a bit back and forth with the shadows here. Darken. And I'm not sure, but it feels like PanPastel blends different on top of the charcoal layer. I'm going to add, so this was charcoal. I'm going to add some black PanPastel here to blend somewhere. And then I'm pulling that value here and then here. Make this a bit softer. Oh, not too much. Yeah, need to lighten that a bit. And blend. Yeah, so far I can use the kneaded eraser to lighten if I need to. That works. Let's darken this one here. I've seen other, Erica says it's very interesting to see how you combine charcoal with PanPastel. Yeah, I'm glad you find it interesting. Shannon, I've seen artists use many vacuums to clean up the charcoal mess. I've seen that too. Yeah, I believe that's how because they enjoy the charcoal or they like the result they get with the charcoal, that they just accept the mess that comes with it. I've seen that as well. Patricia says, I can't believe following you, I was able to draw without thinking, and this is fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Shannon, let me rephrase. I've seen artists in mini vacuum to clean. Yeah, I've seen that as well, like this small mini vacuum, and then it maybe I could use that because of the charcoal dust, or no, the PanPastel dust. That would be great for this dust on the desk. Bay was mostly addressing that it transfers to other papers in my art book. It annoys me when it smudges. Yeah, because once it smudges, you can't really use the vacuum. So you will need to use the vacuum if you have it, the powder, to clean up the powder. But once you smudge it, like you go over it with your hand or something, then you can't, then you would need to use the kneaded eraser to clean it up. This would be your best friend to use, the kneaded eraser. Like here, I can clean up these smudges here, and then just mold it again. And it's clean. I love the richness of the black. It's really something what I'm also, that's why I started using charcoal. Even though with my graphite pencil drawings, I've noticed that using the black colored pencil didn't give me those rich blacks. Once I started using charcoal, I was like, wow, that really, that's what I miss in my drawings, that black, yeah. really dark black value, which the colored pencil can't get on the smooth paper at least. So that's why I really wanted to explore more with charcoal, and that really makes your drawing pop. Oh yeah, I was blending this here, the nostril. And then pull this down because the shadow is a bit lower. But I do notice that I'm going over this part. Maybe I went over this with the larger brush, but I feel like it got a bit lighter. And that's what I didn't want. Here, there's a highlight, so I need to keep this part lighter. So that's that could be a bit challenge. When you blend with the brush, you want to be careful that you don't go over an area where highlight is. So I'm cleaning the brush to keep this part lighter. Also here is also a highlight. And then here, also a highlight. And blend again. So with this paper, if I compare it to the Bristol Smooth, it feels like it sticks more to the paper. And with the Bristol Smooth, I could just I could smudge it easier, blend it easier, but yeah, sometimes you don't want it to smudge too easily. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm discovering here. I need to some more value here. Maybe use the smaller brush. See that roundness here on the nose? Add that. This will make the nose look round. Yeah, no worries. If I'm sorry if you already answered this question. What type of brushes work well with pastels? Are makeup brushes sufficient? Yeah, no worries. You can ask your question, even though I already answered it. I don't think I did, but yeah, someone asked what type of brushes these are. And because PanPastel is powder, these are makeup powder brushes, so these work really well with powder. And I know most artists that use PanPastel use sponges, but the thing is, I've noticed with the brushes, you can get a softer effect. Like with a sponge, you get a more opaque layer, if you can call it like that. And then with these powder brushes, you can get like a softer effect. So that's what I like to use. And yeah, these are makeup brushes, but yeah, because they are powder brushes, it works well with this, with the powder in this case. Basil, I did a beautiful charcoal drawing of an older black man. Then my niece accidentally touched it and ruined it by just briefly putting her hand on it. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I would say use a fixative, but then I think you can't really continue to work on it. What I do when I leave my drawing on my desk, I always have an extra piece of paper. So I put it on my drawing to protect it. Also, yeah, I don't want my kids going into the studio and then ruining my drawing. So I always say, don't touch my drawings. Can we buy any makeup brushes? Yeah, brushes, graphite pencil is a different kind of medium. I think that blending stumps and a soft tissue work better with graphite. A brush doesn't really work well with graphite, or you would need to use graphite powder. Again, powder is great. Brushes are great with powder, but if you're going to add graphite with pencils, I've noticed, I've tried brushes before, but it doesn't really blend that smoothly. So I would use a soft tissue. That's my favorite to use with graphite, and that works beautifully. Will cotton work same as brushes? Yeah, you can use cotton buds. I've seen artists blend. That would be a bit the same like using a sponge, I think. Okay, let's see. I will need to work on these highlights again. Bit more detail here. Not sure if I'm going to finish this one completely, but I did get a better understanding of blending with this paper, and also something to keep in mind for myself: no outlines with the charcoal. Once you apply a layer of pastel, you can't really erase the charcoal that good anymore. So that's something that I learned here with this drawing. Also, with every type of medium that you use, you can have challenges, and those things are, yeah, you wouldn't know if you try and if you experiment. So practice and experiment. That's great. And I would say, if you're a beginner, start by learning the basics. Maybe start with graphite because that's easier. Start learning about value, about edges, creating soft edges and hard edges, and just blending, and learn how to create something realistic and natural looking, or even something 3D. That's the first step, and then you can start using different medium and practice some more. Love the outcome, so beautiful. Thank you so much. Bay says, yes, she was helping me to hang my art on the wall when that happened. I should have used fixative. So it was when the drawing was finished and you wanted to hang. Oh, so she wanted to press the drawing against the wall to hang it. Yeah, with charcoal and pastel, I would definitely advise to use fixative for your drawing. But maybe after that smudge, you could have maybe, hopefully, blend that again. Otherwise, yeah. Lesson learned for the next time. Always use a fixative, which is a good brand of erasers. This is one of my favorites, Tombow Mono Zero, for the smaller highlights. And I added a bit too much now. Let's blend these to make them look softer. And then a kneaded eraser, of course. And yeah, a regular eraser. This is what I use when I draw or when I sketch and I need to erase something, a bigger area. But the stick eraser is a really nice one to use. I'm going to use the HB charcoal pencil because with this one I can create a bit more detail. Yeah, you did try to fix. Yeah, it's too bad. Maybe because, yeah, if your hands are a bit dirty or you have like that natural oil, you could get a stain, and that would be really hard to correct. I also had that on my paper once, and then, yeah, you can't do anything about it. You would just need to work around it, and then hopefully someone won't notice that area. Some details here. Okay, so I'm noticing the bigger the drawing, the more details you see. Normally I draw a bit smaller, and then yeah, you see less details, you have to draw less details. So this would take me a bit longer to create. Focusing on all of those details. So when you're adding creases and highlights, always blend. Try to keep that in mind. Always blend after each layer, everything that you put down. Always. Because now you see these harsh lines. That's not what you want. Let's use a smaller brush. Or no, let's use the blending stump. Blending stump is best to blend the charcoal. So you get rid of those harsh lines and make it look like it belongs to the drawing instead of just like these random lines. And then with the blending stump you can also go over the edges of those highlights to make them look a bit, blend them a bit in as well. And then I use the charcoal that's on the stump to, yeah, to also create some smudges. Like here for the freckles. So the more I look at my drawing, the more details I see that I can add. But yeah, the main thing, what I wanted to do here was focus on the blending, see how that goes with the charcoal and the PanPastel. So I only drew the lips here and a bit, a part of the skin there and the freckles. So this reminds me that the larger the drawing, the more time it takes, but that's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to show you in an hour the main drawing process. And I notice now that I can't even finish it in this hour. Here's a highlight. So it is more difficult to like smudge around, clean off, smudge around the highlights. So that's one thing. Yeah, you need to either try to go around it. I noticed that maybe with the stick eraser. Yeah. Shannon asks, do you find that when you're working with the pastels, you can bleach your shading faster in your portrait? With bleach, do you mean that I can fill in an area faster than with graphite? Yeah, some of the words you're using are new to me. But I think that with the pastels and with the brush, I can definitely add a layer faster. It's just the details take more time. Okay, so I'm trying to create a smooth, smoothen this highlight. Clean off the brush. So you don't want to look at have it look like a spot on the skin. So that's what I'm trying here to make it look more natural. Here the shadow, skin, And then I have a highlight here. Yeah, so again, I have that outline that I can't erase. Interesting. So again, something that I can remember for the next time. Darken here. Oh, and here also the charcoal pencil, I see a line here that I can't really blend. So something, yeah. Okay, so the charcoal pencil, once you add PanPastel over it, can't really erase that easily. Yeah. Complete, I mean, so that the shading is faster. Yeah, I do notice that I can shade faster with the pastel. But again, the details will take longer time. Highlights, let's see. Now, when I look at my drawing, I squint my eyes, check to see if I see some like shading to create more roundness. And if I'm satisfied with that, because again, that's more important than the details. Okay, I'm not really satisfied with this top part. And here, because I have an outline here and I want that smooth, you want that smooth blending. That's what I always say, you don't want outlines, but I can't erase that anymore. So that's what I would want to have, like a softer effect. Oh, maybe I can use the white. Let's see how that will go. Clean off the brush. Like here, I was struggling to erase and then create smoother. I forgot about the white. Let's see how that will go. Not really noticing a big difference. I wanted this area to be lighter. No, not really. So I wanted that area to be lighter. So I noticed that you can't really just use the white and get it lighter. Okay. Maybe use the white here after erasing to have it blend. But after erasing, you need to erase or blend. You see those eraser marks or eraser strokes. You don't want those. So that's something that I find easier with graphite, that you can blend easier. So I'm just using the white on those highlighted areas. Yeah, I wish that, or maybe can you add some more? That the white could make it lighter where I wanted it. Just a bit, but not. Also the freckles got a bit lighter. Or maybe I forgot here, this freckled area here. It's getting shape and looks great. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just some freckles. And yeah, with the white you can blend a bit and make it a bit lighter, but not how I hoped, like here, this area. So it blends in. So that's great, yeah. So you see a bit of that dust here on the table, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. It's not too messy. There are some freckles here. Let's use the HB. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much in detail. I think I'm going to blend this. Use the blending stump here. Okay, so that's one thing that I'm having a hard time. Like with graphite, I would erase and then use the soft tissue to blend the highlights. Erica says, I'm definitely love to use PanPastel. Thanks so much, Emmy. I'm glad I could inspire you to try it out. And I would love to hear how that goes for you. Let's add the white again. Yeah, so that's the only thing here I would want to practice some more with. Yeah, with the white works, but look how that looks more like a spot now. So maybe blend here. So it's kind of like back and forth, but having these different values help. Will it be recorded? Yes, the replay will be available for you. If you would like to watch this again. Yeah, so the erasing and the white helped. I'm just going to blend this a bit because I think it looks too harsh. I've never used PanPastel for portrait. Yeah, this is also one of my first, so I'm really interested to try it more often. And again, yeah, I'm glad I could. So this highlight, I'm going to blend over. It looks too harsh. I'm glad I could, yeah, share my process and hopefully, yeah, give you some tips about how I use this to help you use this for any future drawings. If you're going to try out PanPastel, there are some things I learned, like the outline that I'm not satisfied with. I would like to blend this a bit more. So I could just continue to, yeah, it's kind of like going back and forth. A lot of layers. And like I always say, don't give yourself deadlines when you're creating something. Take a break, continue to work on something. So Maya says, very excited to try this in graphite pencils. Yeah, you graphite pencils and then charcoal for the darker areas. That's what you could use. So the fixative, yeah, don't forget to use fixative. Love to see you work with PanPastels, new for me. I'm glad. Cleaning up the PanPastel here. Here you can see that, you see those smudges. Yeah, but actually it's quite, it's not that messy, the desk. So I just use the, how do you say that? I cover it up with the lid and then it's ready to use for the next time. So I don't really have that mess. The only thing I want to try out and experiment more is, like I already said, is the paper. I would like to see if a different paper, if I could get a different result. Christine says, I usually use graphite powder and colored pencils also. Do you prefer using the PanPastels? Oh, graphite powder. I haven't really tried graphite powder, only charcoal powder, but I'm thinking that graphite powder would be the same as the charcoal powder, but just lighter value. And because it's that has that powder, that's what I think. It feels a bit messy for me, and the PanPastel is a bit less messy than graphite or charcoal powder. So did you prefer using the PanPastels? Yes, then I would prefer using the PanPastels. But if graphite powder works for you, I'm not saying you need to go for the PanPastel. It's if you want to get this same effect, and you can get that with the graphite powder or the charcoal powder, then I would say stick with that, whatever works for you. Yeah. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this live session. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you found this helpful. And if you're interested in learning more from me, you can check out my art courses. And I also have an art membership. There are step-by-step video lessons that will help you go from beginner to advanced. So like I mentioned, I would start learning the basics before you start experimenting more with other medium. If you'd like to read more details, there's a link under the video. Or if you have any questions, just leave a comment. And thank you again for joining, everyone, and you're welcome. I'm happy to share my process with you and answer your questions. I hope to see you next week, and have a nice day or evening. Bye bye.